This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Companies and nonprofits are coming together with the hope to build more affordable housing. Business leaders say it's a way to give back, while the nonprofits say it ensures the right type of housing is being built. The CBC's Ian Fraze has the details.
To build more housing for people who need it, the Manitoba government wants businesses to step up. The Business Council of Manitoba says companies want to help.
This is about giving back, so it's not about what's in it for the business. This is about our community.
That community, the Premier says, is struggling with homelessness and crime. On Tuesday, Wob Canoe announced a new way to help get people off the street, a real estate investment trust.
We are going to be unlocking the power of business to help us grapple with some of these challenges.
Starting with $10 million from the province, the trust will then attract investment from the private sector. The trust will then use this money to leverage funding from other sources like federal grants. Canoe expects the nonprofits currently trying to build housing to welcome the support.
What we're saying with this project is, well, no, let's take your expertise and meet you with people who've made their careers out of project management and haggling with contractors.
The head of Shiloh Mission says she'll gladly take the help.
One of the challenges that we face a lot with funding is that you need some funding to get in the door with other funders.
The leader of End Homelessness Winnipeg is optimistic about the future.
We need to pool resources and we need to do things more efficiently if we're ever going to address and end chronic homelessness.
The trust is slated to build at least 3 new housing projects in the next year. One more step towards the NDP's promise of eradicating chronic homelessness in the next 7 years. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It came right down to the wire early this morning, but a tentative deal will keep Manitoba's healthcare support staff on the job and off the picket line. The strike deadline was 6 this morning. At 4:25, an agreement was reached between CUPE, the MGEU, and Shared Health. CUPE President Gina McKay calls the tentative deal substantial.
We hope that this can bring people up enough that they don't have to work 2 to 3 jobs and that they can, do the extracurriculars and buy the groceries that they need and ensure that they have housing security. And so when we're recommending the deal, we're recognizing that this does value and bring workers up.
McKay says everyone should continue to report to work as usual. She says online information sessions will be held ahead of a vote by the membership. McKay says the unions are recommending the members accept the deal. There's a new website that you won't want to catch your name on, but police are hoping it will help capture some of the province's most violent and prolific offenders. Mounties and Winnipeg police are teaming up to try to get some of Manitoba's most wanted off the streets and behind bars. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has more.
This site will show you photos of Manitoba's most violent offenders. If someone spots a wanted person, they can contact the Winnipeg Police Service, RCMP, or Crime Stoppers. This is part of the Manitoba Integrated Violent Offender Apprehension Unit. Inspector Jennifer McKinnon says the goal is to get information to the public fast.
Offenders who find themselves on this list are responsible for homicides, aggravated assaults, firearms offenses, and crimes that, quite frankly, caused immeasurable suffering and hardship. And that's how they've become the focus of this unit.
In the first 3 quarters of 2024, the Manitoba Integrated Violent Offender Apprehension Unit has arrested 264 violent offenders, conducted 594 warrant checks, and knocked on 1,203 doors. RCMP Major Crimes Inspector Sean Pike explains why social media attention works.
We've had occasions where a parent will drive a wanted individual to the detachment so that they can turn themselves in. We've also had an individual walk into one of our detachments, show our officers on their phone the RCMP Facebook page, asking to be arrested so that the post of them can be taken down.
Minister of Justice Matt Wiebe says the province will continue to invest $3 million a year to this unit.
The unit targets people who are terrorizing Manitobans and those who are exploiting our most vulnerable citizens.
Violent crime in Winnipeg in 2023 spiked, according to the latest numbers from the Winnipeg Police Annual Report. Leaders hope Manitoba's most wanted list will make people in the neighbourhoods feel safer. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Former fashion mogul Peter Nygard has been denied bail as he appeals his sexual assault convictions and 11-year prison sentence in Toronto. An Ontario Court of Appeal judge dismissed the bail application, saying Nygard's appeal appears to be, quote, weak, and that he presents a flight risk. Nygard is currently facing charges in multiple other jurisdictions, including here in Winnipeg. The 83-year-old was convicted of 4 counts of sexual assault last year after multiple women came forward with allegations dating back as far as the 80s into the mid-2000s. The judge who presided over the trial said Nygard's time behind bars would work out to a little less than 7 years after accounting for time already spent in custody. An apology today in the Manitoba Legislature for clawing back federal benefits to kids in the child welfare system. The apology is part of a settlement of a class action lawsuit that will see the province pay out $530 million. CBC's Bartley Kivas was at the Legislature and joins us live. And Bartley, can you remind us what is the apology for?
Between 2005 and 2019, Manitoba clawed back benefits from about 30,000 kids who spent time in child welfare. About 80% of those kids were Indigenous. The money was supposed to pay for recreation, cultural activities, hockey, and other programs that weren't covered by basic child welfare. The class action lawsuit was settled in March, and some of the kids in question are now adults. Families Minister Nahane Fontaine issued the apology.
This was not just a financial mistake. It was a profound injustice, leaving some of our most vulnerable children without the supports they needed and rightfully deserved.
Processing of the claims is supposed to begin in January.
So Bartley, the Premier made a small change to his cabinet today. What's happening?
Education Minister Nello Altamar is stepping away for a few weeks to attend to a medical issue. He'll be replaced in the interim by Tracy Schmidt, the NDP Environment Minister. She says his absence won't further delay a long-awaited review of education funding.
We have not only an acting minister, but we have appointed a new legislative assistant. Work is well underway. That work will continue.
The task facing the province is to find some way to replace provincial property taxes and do that in a way that works for school boards. Brittany.
All right, thank you so much. That's CBC's Bartley Kivas tonight. Well, if you were lucky enough to spend some time outdoors today, you know it was a beautiful day here in the southern part of the province. Let's bring in weather specialist Ethan Williams now. Ethan.
Well, thanks, Brittany. Look at this gorgeous day. If you thought yesterday was warm, we got temperatures up into the mid-20s in parts of southwestern Manitoba today. We did crack the 20-degree mark in Winnipeg and portions of the Red River Valley, and even these kind of double-digit temperatures up north and even the single digits, not bad for this time of year. That is pretty seasonal for many locations. Add to that a lot of sunshine through Manitoba today. We've seen a little bit of cloud cover still hanging around and some showers at times in the northwest, but overall, a lot of us seeing a nice clear day throughout the province, and that is something that is going to continue as we head into tomorrow. Not only that, but we're not going to drop much overnight temperature-wise, so we're already starting at 10 degrees at 8 a.m. Keep in mind, though, it is a little bit breezy, and that'll continue as we head through the afternoon tomorrow. Gusts near 40 at times, but still a gorgeous day with mostly sunny conditions and highs in the low 20s. I'll have a full look at your forecast coming up.
All right, thanks, Ethan. A vigil was held last night to remember the victims of October 7th in Israel. Hundreds turned out for the vigil. A year ago, nearly 1,200 Israelis were killed and 250 more were taken hostage in a Hamas-led attack. Among the dead were several Canadian citizens. Ahead of the vigil, the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg organized a walk for Israel at the Asper Jewish Community Campus. Federation President Paula Park says this past year has seen a rise in anti-Semitism.
The work of rebuilding is not done.
we will continue to pray, act, and fight for the safe return of the hostages and the security of the Israeli people.
Events were held worldwide to mark the somber milestone, with several more here in Winnipeg. A vigil attended by fewer than 100 people was also held outside the Canadian Museum for Human Rights in honor of the Palestinians killed in the conflict. Well, they're man's best friend, but what happens when these vulnerable animals are mistreated? Why Winnipeg police have laid a rare charge in this province after a man allegedly abused a stolen dog in public. More on that straight ahead.
This place, every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
Business leaders from Canadian cities are in Ottawa today sounding the alarm. They say their downtown cores aren't safe, and they want the federal government to step in and help. David Thurton reports.
Their leaders say problems such as addictions, mental health, and homelessness are not just Vancouver or Toronto issues. They're now nationwide problems that have gotten worse since COVID-19.
This was a trajectory we were on, but definitely the pandemic accelerated it. And especially in the last couple of years, as more people are coming back to our downtowns, coming back to commercial main streets, there is real challenges that we're facing on our streets that small businesses are facing day to day, whether they're feeling, how do they keep their employees safe? How do employers keep their workers safe?
The business leaders want to see changes to Canada's bail laws to keep offenders behind bars. Amendments that don't just target violent offenders, but repeat offenders involved in shoplifting and other retail crime. The International Downtown Association Canada cautions, though, that jail is not the only solution.
Jail might not be the answer for a lot of folks. They might do, a short sentence. But then what is the plan? Are they in a state that they can go back into the community and not cause further harm to the community? Or do they need to be in some sort of bridge housing? Do they need other supports when they're released? And I think most Canadians would be shocked by how little care and how little planning goes into post-release.
The group is calling for investments in mental health and addiction supports and also housing. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
A 30-year-old Winnipeg man has been arrested on criminal charges related to animal cruelty after police say he was spotted abusing a stolen dog at the Forks. Police say they received multiple calls from witnesses who reported seeing the man assaulting the animal in public. The dog was recognized from social media reports as being missing. Andrew Clark is the Director of Investigations and Emergency Response at the Winnipeg Humane Society and joins me now. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thanks for being here. Andrew, I want to start with the latest case and what goes through your mind when you hear about a story like this?
Well, sadly, these types of stories are becoming a little more common, especially with social media and everyone having a camera with them. So a lot of this stuff that may have gone unnoticed in years past seems to be more prevalent now. But thankfully, Winnipeg police were able to intervene and a charge was laid under the criminal code. So that's a positive, and hopefully the dog is okay.
Yeah, we're seeing some video right now of previous dogs that have been in care of the Humane Society from other cases. And we've seen animal cruelty, hoarding, and other cases of abuse or neglect. But really, how prevalent is it in our province?
Well, in a case like the police, I've been at the Humane Society for 2 years now, and that's the third case that police have actually intervened under the Canadian Criminal Code. It's a more immediate action under Section 445(1) of the code. And animals that are seized in those cases can be rehomed almost immediately by the people at Animal Services under the Responsible Pet Ownership Bylaw. At the Humane Society, we work with the CBO of the province, Chief Veterinary Office, and we have to deal with the Animal Care Act legislation, which is a little more drawn out. It's a little more cumbersome in terms of being able to access animals. But we have seen an increase this past calendar year in the number of removals. We're probably about 40% ahead of our total for all of last year, but that's the Humane Society and the province combined for all animals that have been taken in under the Animal Care Act.
So, Andrew, you did say there were criminal charges that were laid in this particular case. So do you think our laws are harsh enough when it comes to nailing down an offender, and really how difficult is it to lay those charges?
Under the criminal code, it's pretty clear in terms of wounding or injuring a companion animal, a dog as an example, even poisoning an animal. So people that set out to poison animals, they can be charged if the evidence is applicable by the police. We can't lay those criminal charges. Under the Animal Care Act, there's a different set of sections in terms of providing care, not providing medical care, injurious heat, or protection from the cold. There are different sections, and there's more options available to the owner in terms of appeals before any type of legal action can be taken. It's a more drawn-out process. The one thing I think we could have in the province would be to enact legislation which would allow animal protection officers and the agency at the CBO to be able to act quicker in terms of trying to garner convictions or take corrective action against owners.
Andrew, I only have a few seconds left here, but I want to ask you, do you think we're going far enough in protecting our animals, or is there more to be done?
No, I think there's a lot more that can be done. The province has been a great partner, though, in the time that I've been there, and I know that they seek the same kind of protections we do, and we just want all the animals to live in peace along with us.
All right. Andrew, appreciate you and you taking the time to be here with us today. Thanks so much.
No problem. Thanks very much. Have a great day.
Well, depending on the time of day, might feel like what season we're in. In the mornings right now, it definitely feels like we're in the throes of fall, but by the time those daytime highs hit, it still feels like summertime. Let's bring in Ethan Williams now with a check on our forecast. Ethan.
Well, Brittany, we've been talking about these very nice temperatures that we've had and are going to continue to have for the next couple of days here. And you might be wondering just how long is this above seasonal weather going to continue? Well, Environment Canada is saying that through the month of October, November, and December, all of the province has a better chance of being above average. We don't know by how many degrees, but a lot of us in that 60 to 70% chance. And those of us in parts of the Inner Lake and through northeastern Manitoba, even a 70 to 80% chance that we'll be above seasonal continuing over these next 3 months. Precipitation-wise, that same outlook showing that there is the better chance that we'll be below average in terms of precipitation, a pattern likely to continue just even over these next couple of days. High pressure moving in means most of us are going to be clearing out, including in the north, where we've been seeing some showers from time to time today and yesterday. Now, that high pressure begins to move out. We do see some showers moving through the northern Inner Lake as we get into Thursday morning. That's from this low pressure system that is going to begin to move through. That'll bring some cloud cover to us on Thursday, maybe a shower in the Winnipeg area, but I think it's going to mostly be staying to the north. But I definitely think we're in for a little bit of cloudiness as we get into Thursday and maybe Friday. It's not going to dump much rain, though. 2 to 4 millimeters is generally what we're looking at. And again, Winnipeg and much of the south along the Trans-Canada corridor, we're staying on the dry side of things, especially as this system moves through. It will pick up the winds a little bit. Again, as I mentioned, into tomorrow, we could see gusts maybe 40 to 50 at times in the Red River Valley. And then the focus for the winds moves up north as we see gusts 40 to 50 there over these next couple of days. But again, high pressure, even though we have that in place, it'll keep the skies sunny for tomorrow, but a little bit of wind picking up here and there. But still not a bad day if you're Clyde in Dryden, who is enjoying the beautiful summer-like conditions there. And even though this forecast isn't for Dryden itself, I think you're going to be seeing a lot of the same conditions in northwestern Ontario. For Winnipeg, again, banner day again tomorrow as we look at temperatures jumping into the 20s by the afternoon. Again, a little bit of a breeze here and there, but a great day to get outside for all of your outdoor activities. I'll have a look at tonight and tomorrow's provincial forecast, Brittany, coming up in just a little bit.
Clyde looks like he's ready for a walk. Thanks, Ethan. Well, more news from across the country and around the world when we return. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us.
This place.
Every corner of Manitoba has its own story.
Every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Everywhere you are.
In every way we can.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
Sharing. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
Politicians are denouncing reports that a Canadian flag was burned at a rally in British Columbia. Chants calling for both Israel and Canada to burn were heard at the same rally. The federal Conservative leader is blaming rising vitriol and anti-Semitism on the government, while the Liberals are calling him a hypocrite and a liar. CBC's Catherine Cullen reports.
There were strong denunciations.
It is absolutely unacceptable to burn the Canadian flag and to chant death to Canada.
To these pro-genocide, anti-Semitic, anti-Canadian mobs who threaten our Jewish communities nationwide.
Politicians reacting to reports like this. Video not independently verified by CBC, apparently taken at a Vancouver protest on the October 7th anniversary.
This direct assault.
But the Conservatives are blaming the Liberals for the growing rise of anti-Semitism. Pierre Poilievre did it at an October 7th commemoration ceremony, offering a deeply political message.
It is time for the people to change the government.
Then again today, outside the House of Commons.
What has happened to our country? The division, the violence, the hate, the danger, the anti-Semitism that we've never seen before in this country.
He went even further Monday in the House of Commons, accusing the Foreign Affairs Minister of pandering to Hamas. She expressed outrage. Today, Mélanie Joly became visibly frustrated in French, insisting she condemns Hamas and anti-Semitism. She says Poilievre is a hypocrite.
Well, he's saying that he's fighting anti-Semitism. He never condemned those who were waving a Nazi flag during the Freedom Convoy on this Parliament Hill. Why didn't he?
Poilievre is calling for Samidoun, the group that organized the Vancouver rally, to be recognized as a terrorist entity, arguing they're linked to another group that is recognized as a terrorist organization. The Liberals said today they're calling on national security advisors for an emergency review. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Prime Minister is headed to Laos for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit this week. Justin Trudeau is trying to position Canada as a bigger player in the region. But as Ashley Burke reports, violence in the Middle East is dominating opinion polls in Southeast Asia, and Ottawa's position on the war is hurting Canada's reputation there.
The Prime Minister's on his way to Southeast Asia to talk trade and diplomatic relations with world leaders. But those talks could be overshadowed by violence in the Middle East.
Gaza will be on the agenda. When you look at opinion polls in the region of all the geopolitical crises in the world, they rate Gaza as #1 preoccupation, even well ahead of concerns in the regions.
This expert says Canada has taken a reputational hit, with Muslim-majority countries like Indonesia and Malaysia both vocal supporters of Palestinians.
It's a feeling that they have towards the U.S. and other Western countries as well. There's this narrative of hypocrisy and sort of lack of care for the suffering in Gaza, and that has been really difficult because there's a lot of tension.
She says Trudeau's return to the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit is a chance to counter that claim of hypocrisy. Trudeau's Foreign Affairs Minister has been treading carefully.
We want peace and security for Israel in the short, medium term, and long term. And we believe that that peace and security for people can only be achieved through the fact that we're able to find a solution that is true, a two-state solution, where Israelis and Palestinians will be able, in their different states, to live side by side in peace and security.
Trudeau is expected to spend 2 days meeting with world leaders in Laos, where the priority is improving business and trade relations. Then the Prime Minister will head to Germany to talk about another international conflict and reaffirm support for Ukraine's fight against Russia. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal government is introducing measures it says will increase housing across the country. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland announced new mortgage refinancing options today for homeowners who are adding secondary suites to their property. These proposed reforms would take effect early next year.
The idea here is to make it easier for people to build a secondary suite in their home, for someone to build a basement flat, a garden flat, laneway housing. This is all about gentle density, creating more homes for Canadians to live in. It builds on the secondary suite loan program, which was announced in the budget.
In addition, Freeland says 14 more underused federal properties have been identified for housing, bringing the total properties available up to 70. Police near Montreal are investigating after a 10-year-old boy was allegedly scalded with boiling water by a neighbor. They say he was walking home from school with friends when it happened. A woman has been arrested in connection with the incident, and a caution to viewers, some may find the details disturbing. Sarah Levitt reports.
Everybody supports you. Words Marie-Etienne has been repeating to her 10-year-old son, his face and body badly burnt. The boy was brutally attacked on his way home from school last week in this Montreal suburb. CBC News isn't naming him as a minor who was a victim of violence. I was walking calmly with friends, he told Radio-Canada, pointing to a shortcut he took. A woman came out, he says, and threw boiling water from a pot on me. The boy said his friends crossed through the yard of a nearby apartment building. I heard a shout, his mom says, and ran outside to see him. Everybody started crying. The 10-year-old was rushed to hospital, his wounds evident, his skin blistering and peeling off.
We received a call on October 2nd, and we arrested a woman in her 40s. She could face charges of assault with causing bodily harm and armed assault.
The woman was released on a promise to appear in court later this month. The boy's father alleges the woman said his son had been knocking on her door for the past 3 years. Impossible, the boy's father, Tewa Pierre Seni, says. The family has only been in the neighborhood since January. He believes it was something else. I believe racism was involved, the father says. She didn't go after the white kids, she targeted my child. It hurts, the boy says, and I'm angry. His family says he'll forever be left with scars, a daily reminder of an attack they'd sooner wish to forget. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Longueuil, Quebec.
Israel says it has killed one of the possible replacements for the head of Hezbollah. It is also issuing new evacuation warnings in the southern suburbs of Beirut as it expands its ground operations in Lebanon. Israel says it continues to root out Hezbollah command posts and weapon caches. CBC's Margaret Evans has the latest.
No relief for Lebanon. Israeli airstrikes relentless, both here in the capital Beirut and in the south, where Israel says it's expanding its ground operation. And from the Israeli Prime Minister to the Lebanese people, a warning.
You have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza.
He said Israel had taken out the likely replacement for the slain Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and the replacement's replacement.
I say to you, the people of Lebanon, free your country from Hezbollah so that this war can end.
Earlier, Hezbollah fired more than 100 rockets at Israel in an hour, some making it through the defense system to hit near Haifa. The militant group's deputy leader, Naim Qassem, also appeared in a dimly lit video to deny Israeli claims of battlefield success. I would like to reassure you our capabilities are fine, he said, and what the enemy said about them being affected is a delusion. But he also backed ceasefire efforts undertaken by Lebanon's interim government without specifically linking them to a ceasefire in Gaza, as Hezbollah leaders have done in the past. Lebanese fears of a wider Israeli ground invasion have grown, along with Israeli military orders that civilians stay away from the coastline and off the water, from the port city of Sidon all the way to the Israeli border. Lebanon's Hezbollah-backed Minister for Public Works and Transportation calls it a big problem.
As you know, we have the port of Sidon. It's a commercial port. So we have several public services there. We have our people, that they live there.
Alarm bells over the growing humanitarian impact on Lebanon, already fragile, continue to sound. 900 schools designated as shelters for more than 1 million displaced, already overflowing. Many people in Beirut still sleeping outside with nowhere to go. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Beirut.
Still ahead, millions on the move as Hurricane Milton barrels towards Florida. Stay with us, there's much more to come.
This place, every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them. Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
Millions of people in Florida are on the move, trying to get out of the way of Hurricane Milton. Officials are warning those in its path that this storm will be catastrophic. Cameron McIntosh reports.
Flying through the eye of the hurricane, forecasters are getting a better sense of Milton's path, churning over the Gulf of Mexico, bearing down on Florida's Gulf Coast, where millions of residents have been told to leave. Traffic now bumper to bumper on highways headed out. In a place where hurricane warnings are part of life, many say this feels different.
I've ridden out all the storms. This would be the first one I'm leaving for.
Milton has already hit parts of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. It's predicted to broadside Florida's heavily populated Gulf Coast, pushing up shallow coastal waters into storm surges. In Tampa, possibly up to 5 meters.
I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
The president says the federal government is bracing for catastrophe.
This could be the worst storm to hit Florida in over a century. And God willing, it won't be, but that's what it's looking like right now.
Warm air in the Gulf of Mexico is fueling Milton, which is also not meeting resistance from other winds that often weaken hurricanes. A perfect storm, say climate scientists.
In this case, it was extreme rapid intensification, one of the fastest rates of turning into a Category 5 from a tropical storm that we've ever seen in human history.
Milton will be the second major hurricane to hit Florida in less than 2 weeks, after Helene, which killed 232 people across 6 states. Shelters are being set up in anticipation of Milton as people further inland stock up. Meanwhile, Helene's debris are only adding to the danger, with fears Milton will just pick it all up again.
All this is going to be pretty much missiles coming through. If it's, the amount of wind that's going through with this hurricane coming in, I'm not staying for this one.
While there's some hope the storm will slow, it's still predicted it will cut right across Florida, entering and leaving as a violent hurricane as millions try to get out of the way. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
An international coalition of climate scientists has been checking the Earth's vital signs, and their diagnosis is not good. The researchers looked at 35 factors that contribute to climate change. They found 25 of them are now at record levels, up from 20 last year.
We're having these heat waves and floods and hurricanes, and they're becoming more frequent and more intense and leaving trails of devastation worldwide.
A key measure is ocean temperatures, which are rising. That contributes to the formation and severity of hurricanes. Other factors monitored for the report include fossil fuel consumption, global tree cover loss, and methane emissions. The report shows greenhouse gas emissions have never been higher, driven mainly by the use of fossil fuels. The report also shows some improvements. More energy is coming from renewable sources, such as wind and solar, and forest loss in the Brazilian Amazon is declining. Well, it might only be Tuesday, but some of us are already looking ahead to the weekend, Thanksgiving, that long weekend, and wanting to get outside and spend time with family and friends. Let's bring in Ethan Williams now for a check on our weather forecast. Ethan.
Well, we had an absolutely gorgeous display of the Aurora borealis last night. You didn't even have to go far out of Winnipeg. You could see that in some places in the city itself, and I think there is a chance that we will see that again tonight. We continue to have that geomagnetic storm, that big solar flare coming from the sun that is producing this very strong aurora. The KP index, most places are saying it's going to be anywhere between a level 3 to 4 overnight, but even last night it was kind of that same level. So there is a good chance that, between 9 p.m. and midnight, you will see the aurora once again. How strong it is, of course, going to kind of be a game time decision. It always seems to show up at the last minute, and people rush out with their cameras. And as I say, you don't have to travel very far out of town possibly to be seeing that, especially if you're in Winnipeg, where we got a lot of light night in the city. Temperature-wise tonight, things going to be staying very nice. Again, we got the clear skies for that Aurora, which will be ideal. In the Winnipeg area and the Red River Valley, we're staying quite mild, not dropping far below the 10-degree mark. We may see some temperatures a little bit closer to freezing in western sections near the Saskatchewan border. But other than that, I think that's the only part of the province other than, along the Hudson Bay coast where we may get temperatures around freezing. Get into tomorrow morning and you can see the stark contrast here. We have the sunshine already in western sections of the north, still a little bit of lingering cloud cover as you go eastward, but that is going to clear as we head throughout the day, already jumping into the mid-teens in places like the Paw and Flin Flon, and by the afternoon, nearly double digits along the Hudson Bay coast, and these are temperatures in western sections well above normal for this time of year. Speaking of, well above normal for southern Manitoba, not a cloud in the sky for many locations tomorrow morning, and by the noon hour, look at those temperatures jump over 20 degrees. In fact, portions of the southwest could be into the mid-20s by the noon hour. Many of us going to get in between that 20 to 25 range by the afternoon. So in terms of the 7-day forecast, I mentioned a nice day tomorrow, and we'll continue to keep those nice temperatures around for Thursday, albeit a little bit more cloud cover and some breezy conditions. And then Friday, things clearing out. That's when our temperatures will drop back a little bit, but still looking very nice and well above seasonal for this time of year. I'll have a full look at this 7-day forecast, Brittany, coming up.
All right, thanks, Ethan. A Canadian professor from the University of Toronto is a co-winner of this year's Nobel Prize in Physics. Geoffrey Hinton is a pioneer of artificial intelligence, but one who talks now about the threat AI could pose to humans. Ali Chiasa reports.
And the Nobel Prize in Physics goes to
Geoffrey Hinton, University of Toronto, Canada.
Geoffrey Hinton, also known as the godfather of AI, has won the prestigious award alongside American scientist John Hopfield. In layman's terms, they're being recognized as the architects of machine learning software that acts like a human brain. Using data to recognize patterns, it powers facial recognition and language translation software.
I had no idea I'd be nominated.
Hinton spoke to CBC News over the phone from Palo Alto, California.
I was completely flabbergasted.
Hinton famously stepped down from his role at Google AI last year, allowing him to speak freely about the potential dangers of artificial intelligence getting, well, so intelligent that it becomes a threat to humanity.
If we produce things that are more intelligent than us, how do we know we can keep control?
As this University of Toronto professor puts it, avoiding a Frankenstein scenario.
His call for arms actually has built a lot of initiatives here in Toronto, Canada, and the world that are thinking about how to have safe AI.
Hinton's impact goes way back.
People probably don't know the story of how this all started, but Jeff Hinton used to be a professor in the United States, and unhappy with the funding mechanisms and even the political aspects of the time, Jeff decided to move to Canada. He decided to host and fund this esoteric research topic called neural networks. At the time, that was not very popular. So Canada became this home for this type of research.
Hinton's now Nobel Prize winning work continues to evolve, just like the artificial intelligence he's created. His advice for young researchers now?
The best research comes out of being curious about how things work. Science is just being efficient about your curiosity. Follow your curiosity. That's how you get the best research done.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A clinical trial is underway in Rwanda to combat an outbreak of a deadly virus in that country. Jennifer Yoon has more.
Hundreds of doses of an experimental vaccine now on the ground in Rwanda, a bid to stop the spread of a deadly virus.
This type of disease, most of the time, if not all the time, they start from hospitals.
This is the country's first Marburg outbreak. 56 confirmed cases and 12 deaths in just 10 days. The virus is closely related to Ebola. Symptoms can include high fever, severe headache, and nausea. At worst, it can cause multi-system organ failure. Fatality rates are as high as 88%, and there are no approved treatments or vaccine. In the past 10 years, there have been outbreaks in Tanzania, Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, and Uganda. In this latest outbreak in Rwanda, most of the people killed are health workers, which is why healthcare workers will now receive the experimental shot as part of a clinical trial from a US-based nonprofit promoting global vaccine access. The vaccine already shown to be safe for humans.
It is really a Herculean achievement.
This doctor, who survived an Ebola infection, calls the pace incredible and hopefully life-saving.
It means a lot knowing that there is global solidarity and a movement to really do something pretty unprecedented by getting vaccines into a place so quickly.
It's a similar process that led to the development of Ebola vaccines.
As terrible as these outbreaks are and as devastating as this infection is, it still is an opportunity to do good for this world by determining if these products actually work.
Previous outbreaks have been contained with measures like contact tracing. Experts are optimistic the outbreak will be contained effectively and that the risk level for Canadians is low for now. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Ethan has your last check on our forecast straight ahead. Stay with us.
This river and the land around me play a major role in the lives of people from Poplar River First Nation. Hi, I'm Josh Crabb, a reporter with CBC Manitoba. I spent a week in the community getting to know the land and the people who live here. We'll take you on Lake Winnipeg with commercial fishermen, and we'll go upstream on the Poplar River with a land's guardian.
It feels good. It feels good to connect on the land, connect with myself and see our beautiful land and enjoy it.
And show you a community gardening program that provides fresh, locally grown food for people in the community.
Lots of people like beans around here. Go with their moose, that's why.
Tune in to CBC TV, radio, and online to hear these stories and more.
Well, a gorgeous next couple of days, temperature-wise, a little bit of cloud cover building in for Thursday with some winds, I think, as that low-pressure system moves through. Then we get some clearing for Friday as that system moves out, but you'll notice that low on the other side of it will have a little bit of a cooler day, but still above average. Saturday's our next weather maker, a little bit of rain possible as we head through the day. And then as we get into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that is when our temperatures, this kind of looks like the beginning of a pattern where we'll be closer to normal or maybe even a little bit below that at times with some single-digit temperatures possible. Although, looking like, Brittany, we may avoid dropping below that crucial freezing mark over these next few days.
All right, thanks, Ethan. A good reminder to start bringing all those vegetables in from your harvest. Well, do you start your day with a boatload of coffee? Then today's Daily Lift is just for you. The world's largest cargo sailing ship is docked in Quebec City. The Animos sailed from Colombia with a load of coffee beans.
It's actually very reliable because we are able to route the vessel in a very reliable way, especially on the transoceanic passage. This is where the wind is best understood and best predictable and where we route the vessel best.
The Animos was launched earlier this year. It's 81 meters long and can reach a speed of 13 knots. That's comparable with traditional maritime shipping. The ship has a cargo capacity of 100 tons and is operated by a crew of 7 sailors. It's outfitted with offshore racing technology, including carbon fiber masts. It also has backup diesel engines when the winds aren't so favorable. And I bet you right on board there, it also smells delicious. I know a few coffee connoisseurs who'd like to be on board that ship. That's it for us here this evening. I'll be back here tomorrow night. Have a wonderful evening.